Spazz Out, Volume 1, Stories 8. Every morning for the past year at 8:20 a.m. on the dot, a man walks in and says, "Hi everybody," like a sitcom. He goes to the counter and orders his latte and tells the same lady Erie she looks very, very beautiful. He sits down and reads his whole newspaper, front to back, and drinks his latte with a silver spoon. And before he leaves, he says, "Goodbye everybody," and walks out the door and always turns right. Ari loved that this older man called her very, very beautiful. Some mornings, he was the reason she even went to work. Once or twice, she played with her pee, thinking about him. He left a certain cologne smell that smelled so good, but she never asked him. One day, Ari comes to work with a black eye. At 8:20 a.m., the same man walks through the door. "Hi, everybody." Majority of the people say it back. He walks to the counter and says the same thing. "Good morning. You look very, very beautiful." The only difference is that he asks for a pen and a paper after. She has somebody bring him over a napkin and a pen. Ari watches as the man writes on the napkin and comes over to hand it to her. Ari just stares at the napkin as the man says, "Goodbye everybody," and walks out the door and turns right. Later that night, around 9, Ari, not knowing what to expect, she decided to go to the man's house, knocking on his door. He opens up a minute later, asking her to come in. She hesitates, but she walks in slowly behind him. She sits down in his living room, keeping an eye on the front door. She shares the story of how and why her boyfriend hit her. "My name is Mr. White," he says, "and I will teach your boyfriend a lesson." Ari, feeling a little hot and turned on, thinking about the time she wanted to F this man, she asks Mr. White, "Am I very, very beautiful?" Mr. White walks close and asks, "If I may," and kisses her on the lips. "Now let's go take care of your problem first." Ari P was throbbing. Such a man, Ari thought in her head, eyes all glazed over this man. Mr. White had a 2013 Lamborghini. Ari was shocked. She couldn't believe. They pulled up at Sam's house 7 minutes later. Ari calls Sam outside. He comes downstairs ready to apologize, not knowing Mr. White is about to meet him. Sam opens the door. "Who the F are you?" Blow! Mr. White shoots Sam in the inner thigh and says, "If you ever lay another hand on Ari, I will kill you." Sam, scared for his life, not knowing Ari had these type of connections. Mr. White opens his Lambo door as he stares back at Sam, bleeding all over his front steps. Ari wanted so badly to hop out the car and run to Sam's rescue, but she held it together. Ari, not knowing what she was expecting Mr. White to do, she sat there in a car as calmly as she could. Mr. White takes her back to her parents' crib. She nervously kisses him on the cheek and says, "Look forward to seeing you in the morning." Mr. White smiles as he pulls off. The next day at 8:20 a.m., Mr. White was no show. Ari, not being able to work, thinking about where Mr. White could be, she leaves early and walks to Mr. White's house. Ari approaches Mr. White's door. It was cracked open. She pushes the door open and walks in. As she says Mr. White's name, she finds him on the floor unconscious, blood dripping from the back of his head. She calls 911 immediately. As they are on their way, she asks, "Who did this to you?" But he could not speak. She realizes his jaw has been snapped. After she finds out it will be a few months for him to be fully recovered, she grabs Mr. White's keys and hops in the car and goes to Sam's house. She bangs on the door. A nurse she never seen before comes to the door. "Who are you?" Ari asks, irritated. "My name is Sierra. I was sent here to help Sam since he was shot last night." Sam pushes Sierra out the way and walks in, going up the stairs to Sam's bed. He lays there with nothing but boxers on and bandages wrapped around his leg. Sam says, "You come to shoot me in my other leg?" Ari goes through so many emotions at one time. She asks, "Did you hurt the guy from last night?" Sam says, "How could I? I leaked blood all over my floor using every towel I had in my house. My dad sent Sierra to take care of me." As he says that, Sierra comes behind her in regular clothes, all black. "I hurt Mr. White, and I would have killed him if Sam's father ordered me to. But you," as she pulls out a gun with a silencer on it, "will not get the same treatment." Ari, scared, starts begging Sierra not to shoot her. Sierra says, "B, you pushed me coming in." Sam is shocked and snaps his brain back to working. He says, "Please let Ari go." Erie blurts out, "I make coffee for a living." Sierra laughs and shoots Erie 2 times in her thigh. Sam says, "That's more blood on my floor now." Erie screaming in pain. An hour later, she couldn't believe she was across the room from Mr. White, both in hospital beds. She vowed to get that B, Sierra, and Mr. White vowed to kill them all. To be continued. Spazz Out, Volume 1, Stories 8. Every morning for the past year at 8:20 a.m. on the dot, a man walks in and says, "Hi everybody," like a sitcom. He goes to the counter and orders his latte and tells the same lady Erie she looks very, very beautiful. He sits down and reads his whole newspaper, front to back, and drinks his latte with a silver spoon. And before he leaves, he says, "Goodbye everybody," and walks out the door and always turns right. Erie loved that this older man called her very, very beautiful. Some mornings, he was the reason she even went to work. Once or twice, she played with her pee, thinking about him. He left a certain cologne smell that smelled so good, but she never